You're listening to the Marc Patrone radio program. If you'd like to call, here's the number. 416-640-0200. That's 416-640-0200. The Marc Patrone radio program, heard exclusively on News Talk, Saga 960.
Well, it could all be decided in Wisconsin, possibly. Other states are certainly at play here, including Michigan, Nevada. But in Wisconsin, Trump's early lead fizzled as Milwaukee absentee ballots were counted, leading to a Democratic lead. With 95% of the vote counted, Biden now has a razor-thin 21,000 vote lead, and that is razor-thin. Miles Kristen joins us from just outside Madison. Miles, crazy night, wasn't it?
Oh, yeah. I was, I had to drink some brandy to stand all the politics, and then come 3 o'clock in the morning, I just couldn't stay up any longer, and I tried, but looking at it right now, and with Biden leading in Nevada, Wisconsin, and Michigan, if he were to win those 3 states, he would actually get exactly 270, which is the number. If it's anything less than 270 for the candidates, then it has to go to Congress, the Democratically controlled Congress. But if he wins those 3 states, he gets 270, and Trump would only have about 263 or 264.
Well, just so we're clear, the House is still run by the Democrats. Currently, the Senate is run by the Republicans, and it looks like that the Senate is going to stay in Republican hands. At least it appears that way. And who knows? Crazier things have happened. And so it's quite possible that the Trump could still take one of those 2 states, either Wisconsin or Michigan. He needs to take one of them. It looks like he's going to continue to hold on to Pennsylvania, and he did. It was a big win for him in Ohio. So there's these huge states, Florida, big states for Trump. But sadly, things changed. I mean, the momentum seemed to be going Trump's way. He was shocking the pollsters after winning Florida by a whopping 370,000 votes, Miles.
Oh, yeah. Who could have guessed that Nate Silver would be wrong again?
What's up with these pollsters? I mean, is that it for these guys? Are they done?
No, because I'm sure these news networks will still bring these people on again and again and again. And, I mean, I have to say for either party, it really shouldn't be close, I mean, we're seeing maybe, I think, 10 million more people came out to vote. But in a country of, 300-plus million people, an extra 10 million, I mean, I'm guessing the protesters and the rioters didn't really get out and vote.
Speaking of which, what is the situation there in terms of are the buildings boarded up? You've got the National Guard out there, right?
Probably. I don't know exactly about the National Guard. I was down on State Street the other day filming, and it was just a depressing ghost town where, you got the homeless sitting all over the street in the middle of a deadly virus, and they should be in shelters, and they should be, off the streets. They're not doing anything to take them off the streets. Things are boarded up everywhere. Most of the businesses of State Street are, out of business now. And, they're I know that last night, protesters were literally blocking traffic on the Capitol Square, parking their cars on the sidewalk of the state capitol. I mean, all this kind of stuff that's just like, why are the police not coming in and impounding these cars? Why are they just letting them do these sorts of things? I mean, what if an ambulance needs to get through? What if they block an ambulance and somebody ends up dying because of it? I mean, just these roadblocks are idiotic. They don't do anything to change the system, and it's just really causing an inconvenience for a lot of people. Miles
Kristen joining us from Wisconsin, right here on Saga 960. In Washington, for instance, D.C. police confirming the stabbing of 4 Trump supporters right near the White House. They had all sorts of soldiers out there, didn't they? Didn't they have a bunch of people sort of encircling the White House? Protests were gathered in front of the White House throughout the night. And unfortunately, people ended up getting stabbed. And sure enough, it just seems like there are always Trump supporters getting attacked.
Washington, D.C. is not a safe area. I mean, there might be a little more security in the Washington, D.C. area, but there's a lot of crime all around that area,
A woman and 3 men were stabbed just blocks away from the White House early this morning, just following after the election. I saw some pictures of a guy with a big Trump 2020 sign. I tell you, got to be pretty gutsy to drive out to that area, get out of your car, hold up a huge sign, and say, woo, woo, Trump, just knowing how bat crap crazy some of these protesters are, whether they're Antifa or BLM or whoever. These people are absolutely nuts.
No.
And also the Proud Boys. The D.C. Here's another aspect of this story, Miles. D.C. police say the victims identified themselves as members of the so-called far-right group that supports Donald Trump, the Proud Boys. So these people apparently were Proud Boys. The victims claimed that the suspects were part of Black Lives Matter. This is weird. The victims claimed that the suspects were part of Black Lives Matter. And so there you go. You have these extreme radicals. Although maybe because Biden appears to have won, would they back off a little bit, given that they now have their far-left government, the government that will be much more sympathetic to Chinese-style totalitarianism?
I wouldn't necessarily categorize all of it like that, but I definitely would say that what I saw, for instance, in 2007, 2008, you had all these big protests, and as soon as Obama got elected, the protests dried up. For instance, the hardcore socialists kind of stopped protesting the establishment because they're trying to win people over to their side, and a lot of the money dries up. And so I think if Biden wins, you will actually see a lot of the protests squashed or whatever, because the establishment wants business to go back to usual. And I think if Trump were to win, you're going to see lots and lots more protests and riots. And a Biden administration, I mean, keep in mind, Kamala Harris was basically this cop, this attorney general who was really hard on people. And, Biden's got this history with the crime bill and so forth. Like, I think they're going to say a lot of things out there in public to try to get their vote. But in the end, I think they're going to do what the money tells them to do. So, I don't see Biden, for instance, ending fracking or oil because he's embedded to those people,
Yeah, well, he's been talking on both sides of his mouth on the fracking issues. But did you know that if all states stay the same that they are now, one and leaners, that Trump would win with 284 electoral votes? Did you know that? Because right now he is technically leading in Wisconsin and in Michigan. And, actually, no, I think he's a little bit behind in Wisconsin. I take it back. But he's leading in Michigan. He's certainly leading in Pennsylvania. And he's leading in North Carolina, in Georgia. These are thin leads, but he still is in the lead. Isn't it possible that Trump could still pull this out?
I'm looking at it as with 64% in, that he's leading in Pennsylvania by 600,000. I mean, Wisconsin, Michigan, and Pennsylvania are 3 states where you've got collectively, I want to say, millions of absentee ballots, or, I mean, for sure, hundreds of thousands of absentee ballots between those 3 states coming in. And so Michigan, Wisconsin, Pennsylvania could still go either way. I'm also looking at, in Wisconsin, these congressional races where, all of these Republicans got elected or reelected, and they have this history. I just say this real quick. They got this history in Wisconsin of running the exact same Democrat for congressional seats again and again, or running them from like assembly, then a bigger seat, and they lose every time. And sure enough, I mean, as far as state politics goes in Wisconsin, I don't think much of anything is going to change because the Wisconsin Democratic Party is incredibly stupid.
Well, I don't think it's much smarter on the federal level either. But Miles, thank you so much. I really appreciate you coming on the show today and giving me your perspective on all this.
Thank you for having me. All
right. That is Miles Kristen coming to us from the Madison area in Wisconsin. Go Trump. That's all I can say. I don't know. To me, it would just seem a terrible mistake for Americans to go in the direction of that decrepit guy who clearly suffers from dementia and that far left vice president who supposedly is going to take over. I don't know, man. It's just scary stuff. But we'll be back with Jocelyn Bamford, who's on the other side of this timeout. So don't go away.
Stream us live at saga960am.ca.